Good morning to the Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, online viewers via TV 15 and also Tel TV Plus viewers, radio listeners via Simon Gov Radio 107.9 FM and respective radio listeners island-wide. I'm Charity Dunker and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, December 7, 2022. At this time, I'd like to welcome and invite the Honorable Minister of Justice, Ms. Anna Richardson.
Pleasant good morning, and may I say season's greetings to the Honorable Prime Minister, my colleague ministers, members of the press, Ms. Dunker, the listening and viewing public, and of course, a special good morning to all senior citizens. I'd hereby like to share some updates related to the Ministry of Justice. First of all, I'd like to take this moment to congratulate a number of inmates who are currently taking their GED exam. This is happening, began yesterday, and their second day is today, and I am extremely elated by this. I look forward to the graduation ceremony that we will have coming up pretty soon. Really an exciting moment for us. As minister, and as would be seen in the press today, I did have a meeting last Sunday with a number of persons who represented the Truckers Association or the Coming Truckers Association here in St. Martin, who expressed their the challenges that the total enforcement of the law poses for them between the hours that are stipulated in the law, 6:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m., and then again from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. So what the proposal says, and I would ask forgiveness because I recognize after the article was published that it did not focus in or expound on where restrictions do apply. So those restrictions are applicable in our school districts, okay? This particular, and if we look on the screen, we would be able to see where those school districts are outlined. They are in areas such as in Phillipsburg, aspects of certain streets in Phillipsburg, Dutch cul-de-sac, St. Peters, Ebenezer, South Reward. There's particular streets in K Hill as well as K Bay, Cole Bay, Simpson Bay, Coopercoy, and Belvedere. Okay, those specific areas that are recognized as school zones, the law is strict. So there is no movement of heavy equipment between 6:30 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. During weekdays, as well as 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. All right. Some clarification, media information will be shared so that everybody is clear what this is. And this ministerial decree that I signed will be shared as well for clarity. So, meeting with them, let me give you an example. When the airport as well indicates to you that our fuel facility is not on the compound, so it's not at the airport. So movement needs to happen between K-Bay, where the fuel plants are, to the airport. We need to be able to recognize the type of aviation activity we have all day, every day. Certain aspects where heavy construction is going on right now, and those are not in the school districts. That's where the ease, this 6 months evaluation ease comes from. But the truckers will also express that the reason for the enforcement of the law came from the outcry of the public. The public expressed that the manner in which truckers drive, the high speed, the recklessness, etc., these things were discussed. And the discussions are ongoing because we talked about them having an association so that government as well as private entities who may want to have discussions about certain behavior or concerns would know exactly who they can contact to have these discussions. Yes? So that article is out today, but as I said, I wanted to speak a little bit more extensively about it here in Press Briefing because I'm not of the opinion that it was expounded enough that the school zones, it is strictly enforced, as well as other aspects, so those are coming. By extension to that, in the media today, you would see that I have made an announcement that we have finally established, our law enforcement complaint committee. This is a complaint committee that is totally outside and independent to our internal bureau that is within KPSM. I won't go too much into it, because if you are willing to read about this committee, you can find it on all our social media platforms as well as government. And if I'm not mistaken, it is in the newspaper today. Same thing with regards to the matter that has the concern of a lot of people, including my person. Very concerned about learning that there were persons who were strip searched in a manner that is not deemed correct by procedure. This does fall within the procedure or the procedure code, so authorities are authorized to strip search. However, in everything that you do, there must be proper procedure. And that was identified as being an area that was not clearly defined at the moment. And since then, I've been presented with a protocol that outlines that. However, I wish to not go too far into this, because it is important to note that there is a court case ongoing, as a matter of fact, too. And by extension to that, the internal investigation is also continuing. So the public will receive updates about this. I still have to be confirmed that the protocol in itself can be published, so that persons are aware of what authorities, KPSM and other entities have, and who needs to be contacted, who needs to be present when certain activities are being executed in the realm of the authorities. Okay, those are my updates for now, and I'm available for any questions that the media may have. Thank you very much, Charity.
Thank you, Honorable Minister of Justice Anna Richardson, for your opening remarks. At this time, I'd like to invite the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, Ms. Sylveria Jacobs, to address you. Ms. Jacobs?
Thank you so much, Charity. Good morning to you. Good morning to my colleague, Minister, of course, Ms. Richardson. Good morning to the media here present and those following. Good morning to the people of St. Martin tuned in. It is my pleasure to be back home, first of all, after my travels, and to be here on time to host the yearly Hurricane Thanksgiving service, which took place on Sunday. Unfortunately, it was not broadcast live to the people of St. Martin as is customary, and we're missing that. So we're awaiting the finalization of the editing to take place so that that can be placed on our Facebook pages. It was a very heartwarming and moving service, and I must say that I am encouraged. I am encouraged by the fact that the people of St. Martin have come together across cultural lines to give thanks for our safe passage through the hurricane season, as well as to welcome the coming Christmas season. Not only have we been spared serious damage, we are grateful that we are given an opportunity to continue to rebound from our many external shocks, including not just the hurricane, but also the pandemic and the economic inflation that we're facing now as a result of the war as well. So there are ongoing crises around the world, and we are indeed blessed. So thank God for that, and we will continue to express our blessings in our actions, remembering that the Christmas season is upon us and there are many vulnerable out there who are in need. And if we are aware, that we should do our best to share in what we have. I must also give a little update on my travel to the Netherlands, together with the Minister of Finance and the NRPB, as well as the steering committee member, Mr. Gums. We traveled to be able to have the steering committee meetings, which are held twice per year, to make decisions on the trust fund moving forward. So I must extend a special thank you to the St. Martin House and our plenipotentiary minister, Mr. Rene Violinas, and his staff for the support that was rendered during that trip and in preparation for as well, and also that will continue to take place after we've left. I was able to enjoy a part of the presentation on budgeting that was organized by the guidance counselors that are supported by the Ministry of ECYS in the person of Finance-ish CEO, Ms. Angie Remy Chitik of St. Martina, who has studied in the Netherlands, continues to upgrade herself, and is an entrepreneur that is making a difference, not just for herself, but with our students. So I'm hoping that with the presentation that they received, that they're better able to utilize their funds in this global economy that is continuing, the inflation continuing to rise, so that they can make the best use and survive. Congratulations on this initiative that our Chef Min and his cabinet supports by allowing them the space and the room to do so. During the trip, we were also, besides the trust fund meetings, I was also able to have meeting with Special Envoy for Climate, working within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Prince Jaime Bourbon de Parma, to elaborate on opportunities and projects regarding climate adaptation. As some of you may have heard, there is something called the Groei Funds as well as SDE++ that are available in the Netherlands, and the Netherlands has been speaking about making these funds available also to the Caribbean countries, not just the BEST, but also the CAS, St. Martin included, so that we are able to make use of funds so that we can go to more sustainable development to achieve the sustainable development goals. This is great news for us, especially seeing the fact that with the trust fund being a limited amount and the fact that inflation is also impacting that fund, we are looking at all other opportunities to be able to get our projects realized. In the meetings held with the State Secretary of Kingdom Relations and Digitalization, Alexandra van Huffelen, of course, those were mainly centered around the World Bank's midterm review and the trust fund discussion. The report provides a big picture review of the progress towards the objectives that were set back in 2019 in the strategic framework of the trust fund. And from those discussions, I was able to garner support from the Netherlands, or commitment to ensure that those decisions taken back in 2019 and the projects that have been approved thus far will be able to be realized as has been planned. So we will continue to think along together to ensure that the necessary funding is realized. There will be ongoing discussions on a bilateral level and a tripartite level, so within the steering committee, to realize the positives. We were able to realize the needed funds for the hospital project to be able to complete it in the amount of 7 million euros or dollars. Euros. And this was a good news, as it was initially only expected to be 4, where we would have prioritized our own 3 million out of the fund. And while we may still in the future have to prioritize, that is not imminent at the moment, and so that will be taken up in the next steering committee meeting. The commitment to continue with some key projects was also given, and so those will also be further decided in the next steering committee meeting. One other important meeting I had was the Director General of Political Affairs, Marcel de Vink, also within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and that's also ensuring that the policies that they are putting together includes the islands and St. Martin in particular. This is something that's coming to the Kingdom Council of Ministers for approval, and we had some questions as to ensuring that there was more inclusion in the policy document that is for the entire kingdom. We were involved on technical level, but of course it's a framework at this time, and we look forward to seeing even more of our topics being highlighted, especially as small island developing states within the kingdom's policy documents that will fall out of it. I would also like to update on the relocation of the firefighters. I believe a press statement was issued, but just to clarify, this was done on Monday, so there are 10 more days within the scope of works to address the situation with the AC ducts on their floor, so the entire floor where they live and work, outside of what they do downstairs in the open areas. All of their concerns are being dealt with either by the NRPB's project or the SOG as the owner of the building, which is handling this set of works, as well as the smaller maintenance that is the responsibility of government as their employer. So we are definitely, and the small maintenance internally to the building. So we are working diligently. Several advices did pass through, were signed off on, and payments made so that all of these issues can be dealt with. Has our 100% attention and priority to ensure that they are safe and secure to be able to carry out their works. The NRPB has also confirmed that the suits that were expected are expected to be here in 2 installments this week and next week. So we look forward to that ahead of the 22nd of December projected date. Also, during my visits, I know that this has been a hot topic, and especially seeing that there are not many ministers here today, I'll take the opportunity to still make a statement on this. I did make a statement prior to leaving when a question was asked by the media. The slavery past discussion is currently being discussed throughout the kingdom. Yes, we have been notified that there will be statements made on the 19th of December. There is also a Katshuis discussion happening tomorrow in the Netherlands where our plenipotentiary minister will be taking part. And 2 weeks ago, two persons, I mentioned that last time, did take part in those discussions in Curacao. So there is let's say, an effort, and we can commend the effort to have discussions with St. Martin, but we have reiterated in writing to BZK and the government of the Netherlands that we were not involved in the beginning of this discussion with the dialogue group officially as St. Martin. We are currently in the process of setting up an advisory committee, which will be specifically for slavery atonement reparations. There is an existing 10-point action plan that CARICOM has established for this purpose, which will form the basis of the discussions moving forward. A representative of the government will be sent to St. Martin. I got further information from the state secretary on this, as well as several other Dutch politicians. I've also sought discussions with members of parliament, those that support and do not support the government, to hear their stance as well. And everyone who is part of the government seems intent that this is but the beginning of what has to take place, and that is something that was set forth by us as St. Martin already. They're still requesting another response in writing, which we may be sending. There is a letter that is drafted from the Council of Ministers, which with my further input later today would be going to the Netherlands as well with certain questions. Though some of those questions were answered to me verbally, we believe that a response to our first letter as well as to this one is needed before we can be clear as to what will be happening on the 19th. Because it is definitely not the intention that a representative of the government is here translating the statements made by the Prime Minister, which will be made in the Netherlands, and that we then jump up and make a statement as well. So as country, we are in the process of establishing a committee. First of all, this committee will then meet with stakeholders, etc. I would definitely want to invite them to hear what the representative of the Dutch government will have to say in their statements. And thereafter, St. Martin, as well as all of the other countries involved, should be given the opportunity to assess the content of said statements/apology to determine the value of it, in terms of the sincerity of it, and if it addresses the points that we see as important, after which we will then make a response. Based on their discussions, we believe that discussions must be had throughout the community, in Parliament and the like, before St. Martin can unequivocally state anything, because an empty or just coming forth and saying, okay, I acknowledge that the atrocity of slavery is a crime against humanity, check. I apologize, check. Here is 250 million, check, and we're done. That definitely cannot be the case. And I have been reassured that that will not be the case. But I must say, as a country, we must wait to see and hear what the content of said statements and or apology will be, and be given the room and space to properly analyze such before an answer will be given. Any type of answer will be given. So it will not be the intention of St. Martin to, on the spot, be accepting or denying the apology. So I hope that that makes it clear in terms of St. Martin. There are several questions that we still have, which will be sent in writing to the government of St. Martin, of the Netherlands, to respond in writing. And I am also encouraged by, even though I haven't read the details of it, the press statement I saw today that the king is also doing an investigation as to the monarch's involvement, so to speak, because that question has also been asking. The Prime Minister is intending to apologize despite having made statements to the contrary just last year. We know their stance on decolonization as well. So it will be very interesting indeed, because we are to move forward in this kingdom. A lot of information and awareness need to be brought to the people of St. Martin, to the people of the kingdom in general, and then the dialogue has to start as to what will this apology mean for the countries? Because an apology in and of itself would not be deemed worthy of what has taken place and what we are still dealing with today. Point in fact that I have mentioned to the State Secretary, not only in writing, but also in our meetings that we held here, most recently the 21st of November, and last week when I saw her face to face, is that the 12.5% and other cost-cutting measures cannot remain on the table at the same time that an apology is being granted. So I'm looking forward to that being also addressed prior to any statements being made, as that will form part and parcel of our opinion on what this apology or statement from the Dutch government in this regard will mean. Because yes, it is good to apologize for the wrong, but that apology must come with more. So those who are not yet up to date, I would suggest you start to research yourself the 10 points action plan of CARICOM as it relates to this topic. And we as government have taken it upon ourselves to ensure that the committee is established, and as soon as it's established, that they will get to the task of doing the necessary engagements with all stakeholders and public discussions so that we can ensure that our population is well aware of what we would want to gain from such an apology. I think I will leave it there because that went on a lot longer than I'd planned. And if there are any further questions, that this will be addressed via the media.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister Sylveria Jacobs, for your opening remarks. At this time, I'd like to welcome and invite the Honorable Minister of Finance, Artwell Irian, to address you. Good morning, Minister.
Good morning, all. Good morning, Charity. Good morning to the Council of Ministers. Good morning to the media. Good morning to the viewing public. I'll first like to start off with congratulations to Ms. Ife Badijo, Dr. Ife Badijo, on being the first Samaritaner ever to partake and be a part of the International Visitors Leadership Program, and a program that brings professional leaders together around the world. And she was awarded this 3 weeks ago by the U.S. Consulate. So I'd like to also publicly congratulate her on that. In regards to what we saw yesterday at the landfill, that some heavy operators took a stance yesterday in regards to their payment, and the ministry has quickly resolved that situation. There was also a meeting yesterday between the ministry and the heavy operators, where we've mutual agreement that operations will continue. In the meantime, they have all been paid for the 2 past months. The situation is that the tender process took a lot longer than we would have liked, and was an unsuccessful tender and had to come back from the governor to be adjusted. In the meantime, we are working on a new tender for deviation that will allow the current landfill operators to continue until the new tender has gone out. This situation also is unfortunate, and it's a situation that we are, as a government, but also in the Ministry of RUMI, in my acting capacity, we are going to work on not having these situations happen anymore. In regards to the tender process in general, we are looking at improving capacity, so through training, right? Having advices done properly, it requires training. In addition to that, with the support of the Ministry of Finance, we are looking at all contracts within government, so that tenders start in a timely manner, not having tenders start 2 months before the time or 3 months before the time. So we're looking at the capacity within the ministries in regards to tenders, and we're looking at starting on time and also trainings. In addition to that, as I mentioned before, in the meantime, they have been paid and works continue. As the Prime Minister also mentioned, our trip last week, and as was, in my opinion, I believe also hers, in her opening remarks, was a successful trip in regards to all the trust fund projects. In addition to that, we also, as she mentioned, had sidebar meetings on different topics. And I believe during those meetings, it was evident that St. Martin is on the right track in regards to our agreements that be made and upheld in regards to the conditions set forth by us due to the pandemic in 2020. We've basically agreed and complied with all the agreements. And it looks very positive in 2023 that the Netherlands will also live up to their part of the agreement when it comes to conditions. So that's the LNT law, the 12.5% and the 25%. We have also the issue about the budget 2023 and being able to sustain any payments in regards to vacation pay and so forth, anything that was cut in the conditions. And this is also being fulfilled by the ministry. In regards to budget 2023, we are also looking at, there will be a little delay because we are looking at actually bringing the budget closer to balance as possible. In reviewing the 2022 preliminary data for the financial statements, we see that we look at our spending and we see that there can be better alignments in our spending. So with that being said, and the data proven, that we are going to be looking at our budget 2023 and bring it closer to balance as possible, which also then would bring us more in line with the Edinburgh discussions and agreements. Also, when being able to wear two caps when the minister's out at times, on the Ministry of Finance side, the Ministry of Brummy side, I do see that we have to really make some improvements in regards to capacity in the ministry. The minister has already indicated that to me also. When we did some investigations, at least between the last 5 to 10 years in certain ministries, we see that payments for works have been paid in the past with no work executed. It's very unfortunate because that means government has spent money and the public is in anticipation of a project to be executed, and that was never done. We have started the process of asking for the money back for certain companies. We've started the process already. It has gone already to the bailiff, to some companies, so that process has started. We also saw some irregularities with, even at the top in the ministry, and how payments were made in the past, jobs not being executed, and like I said before, we're going to hold all these companies accountable. So that process has started, and in addition to that, going back to the meeting in the Netherlands, I would like to also thank, in addition to what the Prime Minister mentioned, thank the NRPB and the staff for their support. I believe without their support and knowledge, we wouldn't be able to execute as fast as we wanted to. And I do see that we have built a lot of capacity at the NRPB over the last few years that the government can use long after the trust fund is no longer here. So I look forward to the government actually looking at some type of plan for what happens with our professionals at the NRPB and what will come out of this agency after that fact. I believe I have touched all of the topics that I wanted to touch. So I look forward to your questions for the media.
Thank you, Honorable Minister of Finance, Artwell Irian, for your opening remarks. If you have just joined us, you're watching the live Council Minister's press briefing for today, December 7, 2022. Welcome and thank you for joining us. At this time, we move on to the question and answer session, whereby I'd like to invite and welcome Ms. Bibi Hartshaw of SMN News. You have the floor.
Good morning, Charity. Good morning, colleagues and ministers. And thank you, Charity. My first question is to the Prime Minister, the shareholder rep for the Princess Juliana International Airport. It has come to our attention, Prime Minister, a couple of weeks now, that the CFO has also resigned. Can you tell us exactly what's the reason for the resignation? Does this have anything to do with the restructuring that came out of the World Bank report on the suggestions with the I team, with the implementation of the changes that were suggested?
Let me correct you. Initially, I'm not a shareholders rep per se. We, as a council, are the shareholders. As chair of the Council of Ministers, in the absence of a mandate being given to any other minister, then I would respond. However, we do have an agreement that Minister Otley would be the point of contact for the airport. In any case, he's not here, and so I have no problem to respond. And I think I responded to this 2 weeks ago already, in that the resignation was did not entail reasoning. We'd just been informed that this will take place sometime in the beginning of 2023. Mainly in the discussions, it was for personal reasons. I cannot ascertain if there's any other reason, and that was not highlighted in the documentation shared. We haven't had any follow-up meetings since then to be able to go into the details of that. So I have no further information to divulge on that topic at this time. That was it, right?
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister Severia Jacobs, and also thank you, Bibi, for your question. Moving on to Mr. Andrew Dick, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dunker. And also, good morning to the ministers. As a follow-up, Minister Atwell, can we have the figures of how much money in total, as far as companies receiving monies from government and not executing the work? And my question is for the Prime Minister. We received reports that the World Bank has put the airport on higher supervision, extremely higher supervision, due to the recent incidents that took place as far as the delay in the construction is concerned. Can you confirm this?
I wouldn't necessarily say higher supervision. There is a level of supervision that always takes place. With the challenges in terms of the delays that have been noted, they did send a team that was here for a mission on the safety, safeguards, all of the different aspects that they check to ensure. Part of it is ensuring that you have a proper disposal. So all the safety safeguards, they had a mission here a few weeks ago that did go down and assess the situation, but I wouldn't necessarily call it higher supervision. This is something they do with all the projects.
In regards to...
Sorry, and we will, of course, the NRPB and the supervising contractor has to continue to do their due diligence, and the World Bank is and has always been a part of that diligence and supervision, ensuring that the work is proceeding as it should.
In regards to the amount of companies and money owed is really, we don't have, let's say, it's as they come. So as I said, being having to wear two caps, and the Minister of Rummy seeing some things from the past, we had these discussions on, okay, what do we do about these works that that had to be done, even up to 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. And so it's just different projects. So one of 50,000, one of 60,000. It's just different projects. We don't have a total, and as more come out, then we just have to add them to the list. But the more important part is that we are going to be taking account of these matters. In 2023, as we already seen, the U.S., which is our biggest tourism partner, the U.S., Canada, and so forth, there are layoffs happening and so forth. We can have a potential recession in 2023. So we have to look at our own budget and be accountable for our own money. That's why it's also important for us to be able to tighten our budget 2023 within realistic expectations. On top of that, if companies have gotten money and not executed the works, then just give us our money back and we'll find another person to do that. And we are going to start a process of holding persons accountable for those actions also.
Honorable Prime Minister, you'd like to add?
Yes, I wanted to double check to see what the mission was, and it was the Environmental Safeguard Standard Specialists. So that was a mission that was here that went around and checked all the ongoing projects, including the airport.
Thank you, Honorable Ministers, for answering Mr. Andrew Dick's question. Mr. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the floor.
Good morning to the people of St. Martin and the ministers that are present here today and those that are not here. Question to the Minister of Justice. Minister of Justice, for a long while now, I've been following the topic of gender abuse, Minister. And it has been mentioned a lot of times, But holistically, Minister, as I was looking at the topic, there are a lot of people who've been abused and discriminated and stigmatized because they have chosen their gender, Minister. And I think the time has come for the Minister of Justice to say something on this matter. There are persons who are saying, listen, because persons choose their gender, they will not employ them. Even churches, they are saying that, oh, they can come to church, but they cannot take activity in my church, Minister. And seeing that the emphasis I'm seeing on the word gender abuse, seeing that it's so sensitive, send a message, because all human beings have a right to choose and to live, Minister.
Mr. Brown, absolutely true. In the sense of, I just got back not too long ago from representing St. Martin and by extension the kingdom at the Geneva Assembly, where this was a topic, human rights. And so, of course, we spoke as a kingdom that, of course, all efforts to be able to eradicate any sort of violence against anyone, and not just humans, but animals as well. Life is important and needs to be respected. Now, the angle that you are speaking from is also a very important one that we highlight from November 1st through and to December 16th, where we seek the eradication of domestic violence. And domestic violence affects both men, women, and children. We also speak about gender-based violence and the eradication of that. So we have, for the last 3 years since I've taken office, this ministry in particular has been doing, I would say, quite a job in being able to highlight the importance of us being respectful of others and their choices, being respectful of human life, being respectful of life. Perhaps what I should consider doing is having a team do a study about what's really occurring on the island. You made mention of persons being discriminated for jobs, etc. This is not something that I have the data on. I think it's important then that we have a study done on it, and then how we can approach it to ensure that everyone on this island feels that level of equality. Yes? Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Justice, and also thank you, Lyndon. Ms. Bibi Hadshaw of SMN News, you have the floor.
Thank you, Charity. Prime Minister, can you give us an update on the status of the investigation at NVGEBE, and tell us exactly how many investigation is running? Because recently, I believe the Integrity Chamber announced that they have also launched an investigation there.
Yes, as you know, we receive bi-weekly reports. We have not had a meeting after the last two reports. This was supposed to take place yesterday. Yesterday or today? Yesterday? No, yesterday, Tuesday. We were supposed to have that meeting yesterday during our regular Council of Ministers time in the morning, third party with NVGEBE, but they requested a postponement to be able to finalize some other or new developments to be able to present to us, as well as because they wouldn't have had a quorum for the board at the meeting. So there are some pertinent information coming out of the investigation that they would want to share with us, hopefully when we reconvene the meeting or convene the meeting early next week. The investigation is ongoing. Yes, they are cooperating with the Integrity Chamber as well, and with any and all that require the participation. I think that some persons, it's noted, I can mention that there is an increase in payments, yes, but it is still not what it needs to be. So based on that, I would like to encourage those persons to continue to make payments on their accounts as we continue to receive service from NVGEBE, and that is what maintains the payments that they have to third parties to be able to provide electricity to our to all the constituents. So it is important that we get these updates. We have some updates in writing, but we would like to have further discussions with NVGEBE's management, interim management and board before having any further discussions. As you know, we also have to return to Parliament also So I don't think it's fair to Parliament to be mentioning things here that I haven't mentioned there as yet, and things that haven't been finalized in discussion with the Council of Ministers as shareholder. So do allow us the opportunity to have those follow-up meetings, hopefully by early next week, and then we'll be able to update. But I do know, for instance, based on yesterday's statements in the press, that they have clarified the story on whether or not a second hack took place. So I'm hoping that that has been clarified and everyone is clear on that.
Thank you, Prime Minister, and also thank you, Bibi, for your question. Mr. Andrew Dick of TV15, you have the floor.
Thank you, Charity. My question is for the Minister of Justice as a follow-up to your statement concerning the strip search situation. Why did it take so long for you to make a statement concerning the situation? I mean, it happened, it was reported about 2 weeks ago, and we didn't hear anything from you until last night in a statement. So why did it take so long? And my question for the Prime Minister, decorations in Phillipsburg, is the government of St. Martin doing anything to let the Dutch side look as light up as the French side? I was looking to way to term it. Thank you.
My questions first. Thank you, Mr. Dick, for your question. In my capacity, Mr. Dick, I like to be able to ensure that I have all the correct information before I speak, because especially your person and your capacity, you hold us to every word that we see. And so it is essential for me to be able to ask my entities what has transpired, what does the law say, what does the procedure require for me to be able to answer correctly. And by extension to that, as I mentioned in my opening statements, there is a court case that is ongoing. There is an investigation on the way. And even in those capacities, defense attorneys will take what the minister says and use it as a part of their defense. So whilst I understand we are a community that seeks quick reaction and we like the sensation that it brings within the community when we have these hot topics going, as a professional, I have to ensure I do this the correct way. Yes? Thank you.
Thank you, Minister of Justice. And now for Prime Minister.
Yes, in the past, we've had collaborations with organizations within the Phillipsburg community, business owners and the like, in terms of the decorations. I would have to double check with the Ministry of Teat if that is taking place this year. Thus far, I was out at the last Council of Ministers meeting and unfortunately haven't been able to read up on what took place fully, but I don't have any information on that at this moment. I do understand your sentiments, yes, but we do know our situation as well.
All right, thank you both ministers, and also thank you, Mr. Andrew Dick, for your question. Mr. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the floor.
Question to the Minister of Finance. Minister of Finance, I assume that it was pending with the payment of the garbage collectors. But Minister, you take hours to settle the problem. What was the delay? I mean, reaching that far?
Thank you for the compliment, Mr. Brown. Me handling it in hours is actually a big compliment, actually. We arrived on Sunday and saw a situation on Monday, and it was resolved yesterday. So, again, I thank you for the compliment. I believe we resolved it pretty quickly, and I appreciate the confidence.
Thank you, Minister of Finance. You'd like to add anything else? That's it. Thank you, Minister of Finance, and also thank you, Lyndon. Ms. Bibi Haj Shah, you have the floor for the third and final round.
Thank you, Charity. I will pose my question to the Minister of Finance because, Minister, if I remember correctly, a couple of weeks ago, teachers of the St. Martin Academy, they had to strike before they were paid their vacation allowance. Yesterday, what we see, yes, you resolved the matter in a matter of hours, but was this necessary that contractors had to actually block the entrances of the landfill before a solution was found? We also have a situation going on with all Catholic schools on the island. None of those teachers received their vacation allowance. I asked about this last week. The Minister of Education promised to give a follow-up. I'm still waiting. I mean, we are in the Christmas season, Minister. Do we have to have industrial action taken before things are done?
The first one was in regards to the schools, I believe. So again, it's unfortunate that these matters haven't been resolved. The government did their part, for sure. As we've mentioned time and time again for months on end, that we've paid out the subsidy to all schools, right? And the proof is in the pudding because we've seen schools already paid out, right? So you've seen NEPA, you've seen Christian Hillside, and a few others, right? So it's not that they can't pay out. We've also, the Minister of Rami and myself, at that time as Deputy Prime Minister, we also sat with the different school boards and we went through the different processes and so forth to help look at different options and also had different discussions in regards to subsidy and so forth. After these discussions, we've seen many of those schools paid out subsidy. So I would say, I would hope, vacation allowance, vacation pay. I would really hope that the school boards are paying attention and they don't take the meetings that we had in vain and they pay out the vacation pay. Because it's within their capacity too. And on top of that, they did it before. Just think about that, right? So it's 2020 we had these laws. In 2021, they all paid out. It wasn't an issue at that point in time, right? So if you did it then, you could do it now. And this time you also had a lot of support, personal support also, in regarding possibilities on how to pay it out and still remain within the 12.5%. But in addition to that, as I mentioned before, my opening statements, our trip in the Netherlands was successful. The LNT law was passed, and all of these other conditions that we had, we've achieved, and we believe that in 2023, these matters will be long gone. In regards to the last one, you also mentioned regards to the heavy equipment. It is unfortunate that it had to lead to that. And I don't necessarily blame the heavy equipment operators, right? I believe if you're doing a job, you should get paid. And on government end, we have to do a better job of keeping track of contracts, right? And that's why I said, especially now being in a dual capacity, the Ministry of Finance will be supporting multiple ministries in this effect, but also very strictly holding accountability at a high regard within the ministries. I want to be honest, right? We also have, I'll say this, old habits die hard, right? But old habits will die, especially with me as Minister of Finance, and especially in the different ministries. Individuals will be held accountable, but on the other end, we also will be providing trainings to the persons that want to succeed. The Ministry of Finance has also started a process of finalizing the tender law. This has been a discussion in Parliament in regarding to the tendering process. The tendering law is not a situation that we invented, right? Every government before us, even having to have some MPs that were here before as ministers, without this law, conveniently, asked us, when are we going to do this law? And it will be done. We've started this process. So we will have a tender law, hopefully before the end of 2023. And we will be looking at other possible solutions to avoid further tender delays in the future. And I'll discuss these in a couple of weeks when we are a little bit further along.
Prime Minister, you'd like to add?
Yes, I'd like to also address the situation of something that we've noted that is a serious concern for us in government in being able to maintain our contracts timely. In this case, it's the heavy equipment operators, but there are also vendors that are carrying out services for government that also have an issue with receiving late payments, etc. So it does have a lot to do with the red tape and the bureaucracy within our system, what has to be in an advice to be able to pay. And when contracts run out, if you don't do it in time, it's a difficult situation to deviate from the accountability ordinance. And that takes some back and forth and delays payments, and then that creates a cyclical effect. So yes, indeed, I totally agree with the Minister of Finance that more needs to be done to ensure that the procedure starts on time and that it is timely followed up and it is built properly. The advice to award somebody or to continue with a contract, extend the contract, or whatever the case may be, is done timely so that we avoid these types of situations where service is being rendered and the payments are not timely made. So this is one of the goals that we aim to improve on. It is something that we've met, yes, we've been here quite a while. People would say, oh, you're the longest serving government, but change is a bit difficult to achieve when you are lacking some key personnel or you're seeing that there is a need to build a certain capacity to ensure that it can go faster and in a more conscientious manner. So that is something that we're definitely all ministries that are responsible in this area working towards, and I apologize to any of our vendors who are still awaiting payment. We're doing our best to ensure that we can get some done within the next couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, both ministers, and also thank you, Bibi. Mr. Andrew Dick of TV15, you have the floor.
Thank you. Minister of Justice, can we get an update on the on immigration as far as the project that you launched earlier this year together with TIAT with the employers? Have persons been sending letters? How's that project going?
Thank you, Mr. Dick, for your question. Yes, so I did as well provide a follow-up to persons that are going to be applying within the program to submit a letter to my person so they can receive a response. I think that that is important for them to have that tangible document with them. God forbid, while immigration, who continues to do their job, is busy doing that, if there was an encounter, they can be able to provide something to confirm that they are part of the process. The task force is in place, and they have provided us with an email address. Forgive me that I don't have it at this moment, but it should be published as soon as possible, that if there are any questions persons may have with regards to same, that they can be provided. What we are busy with right now, though, is our staff have gone through certain collaborative trainings with each other in preparatory work. We wanted to start November at first, or I believe it was, but due to some challenges with equipment, that got delayed. I do not yet have confirmation between my person, the task force, and Minister of TIAT and VESA. What would be our new launch date, but I know it is within short that we want to have that done. Those updates are forthcoming. Sorry that I couldn't give more concrete information, but the project is in the pipeline.
But people are sending in.
Oh, yes, I get those, like a whole lot of those daily. Yeah.
Thank you, Minister Justice, and also thank you, Andrew Dick. Mr. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the floor.
Question to the Minister of Justice. Minister of Justice, can you elucidate what is your place as Minister of Justice? Like, for instance, there was incident where a mental patient been passed away, and up to now, Minister, there is no answer what really happened to Lance Richardson that have passed away in the prison. And also, now you mentioned about the female that have been sought, Minister. Do you also join with the Commissioner of Police and also apologize also?
Oh, definitely. Even with putting out the complaint committee as of today, I think that I have shown and continue to show the public that I am seeking for us to have an operation that is based on respect. Okay, I want to be able to have an organization. Nothing is ever going to be picture perfect, but I want to make sure that the organization, as much as possible, execute their duties in a respectful manner and one where everyone can trust. And that is ultimately what you want to be able to do, is trust your justice system. Yes, we have some instances where that becomes questionable, but I do believe all efforts are being made to be able to correct that. And oftentimes when something negative arises, then you recognize opportunity to improve, and that is something that I see that we do as much as possible. With regards to your mention about the mental person who passed with us, Mr. Lance, the prosecutor's office does have an update on that. I'm going to ask them when they're going to put out that information with regards to their findings and their conclusions. I know that they are in discussion with the family, so the family is well aware of their developments. But I have to find out from them, get an update from them when they intend to give the public an update on same. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Minister of Justice, and also thank you, Mr. Lyndon Brown, for your question. Before we end this morning's Council Ministers Press Briefing, I'd like to reinvite the Honorable Minister of Justice, Ms. Anna Richardson, to address you.
Thank you, Charity. We've covered, so at least I did in my opening statements, so many serious topics that I literally forgot to recognize our Police Sports Organization Association for the spectacular song festival that they hosted this past Sunday. And I want to take this opportunity to congratulate the winner, Mr. Davison Charles of the VKS. VKS has been raking it up this year. Second place runner-up of Officer Angelo Blyden of KPSM came in second. And the third place was captured by our retired inspector who served 43 years in the force, Mr. George York. Congratulations to all the winners as well as to everyone who was in attendance. Thank you for coming. Prime Minister continues to share with me that we just had a very spectacular opportunity upstairs where UNOPS, we signed our agreement officially with UNOPS. Yes, I'm looking at you, Ms. Shaw, that surprised look on your face. Yes, we should congratulate ourselves because we've made a monumental step forward in the right direction when it comes to our prison. I like to put my material out in a different way, but Prime Minister is excited about this, and we all should be. So we are making phenomenal strides. The agreements with UNOPS was signed this morning, and look forward to receiving those details. Thank you.
You're most welcome, Honorable Minister of Justice Anna Richardson. To the members of the media, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us and being a part of the press briefing once again. For any further questions, you can direct those questions to the Minister's Cabinet directly. Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the live Council Ministers Press Briefing for today, Wednesday, December 7, 2022. For rebroadcast to St. Martin, do tune in to St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM and also Tell TV Plus for video on demand and the official Facebook page, which is Government of St. Martin, and also the YouTube channel. On behalf of the Department of Communication and the Government of St. Martin, I'm Charity Dunker, bidding everyone a pleasant day further.